Let's go. Welcome back to our show on this, depending where you are, absolutely freezing Wednesday night. As we continue our 2025 draft prep by looking at the left side of the infield this week, we'll preview third base and the shortstop positions. But as we always do, we begin the show by asking you the question, where else would you rather be than right here? Boom! Right now, I wanted El Jefe here because the Bruins are beating the Devils last time I checked, and so I could rub it in his face. But anyway, you're looking live at our Split Studios, episode 21, Fantasy Baseball Now. For our show, part of the Ball9.com podcast network, we're a couple minutes late, but got to stay warm. With a combined 70 years experience on fantasy baseball, going on 72, Mike and I are here to talk about some Major League Baseball with a fantasy baseball spin. In addition to the infields, we're going to offer up a few observations on the Hall of Fame voting announcement. We will extend an invitation to the coward who did not vote for Ichiro and has not revealed himself. And then our less than reliable NFL picks for Championship Sunday. What's your temperature right now?
12.
Yeah, we're
14. I don't know. It's cold. It's crap. It's cold.
Yeah, we were at 16 last time I was out at about 6:30. It was a balmy -8 this morning when I awoke, but oh well.
It's warming up. It'll heat up this weekend.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. I choose to live in New York. That's what you get. It's what you deal with. That's why you have sweatshirts.
Yeah, for any of you that watched the Eagles game on Sunday, you do know that I got snow where I live, so it's sadly not as much fun as New Orleans is having.
They're just not used to it.
No, they're skating on Bourbon Street last night.
I mean, it was Sunday or Monday. No, Monday. We had the holiday. I took my kids sledding because they were really good all weekend and watched it snow and everything. It was cold. The first hour, I'm like, all right, I can handle this. I'll channel my inner Mac Hollins, who walked into the Bills player, walked into don't call me Rich Stadium anymore in his bathing suit with a towel and bare feet. I'm like, yeah, if he can do it, I can hang in there. But by hour 2.5, I was like, I'm going to warm up the car. Let's start thinking about this. So, but pitchers and catchers are just a mere few weeks away for us. So, where do you have your Fly Eagles Fly gear on? Is it song in the background?
I do not. I do have my number 31 Jets jersey out though. Our guy's home. I'm glad the Jets made a coaching decision today, and I'm really glad it was Aaron Glenn because it distracted me from my scouring of all places known to man on the web for whoever didn't have the brain to think that Ichiro was not a first ballot Hall of Fame.
Yeah. You know, I had an interesting thing. You want to start with the Hall of Fame? We can go there.
Yeah, let's start with the Hall of Fame because
there's no rules here. Here's the thing, and I was talking to as astute a baseball mind as I can find, or I need some new friends. But the big man in Massachusetts heard a thing that said, what if that voter is just some Yankee apologist, Mariano Rivera loving kind of guy that wants to make sure that Mo is still the only unanimous pick to go?
Everybody can put any kind of spin on it that they want.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. It was the same conversation around Jeter, and it was the same conversation around Ken Griffey Jr. Like, the guy's a Hall of Famer. Why do you have to make it? Why, like, oh, maybe you wanted to leave somebody, make sure somebody was on the ballot one more time. So they can go 10 years? I mean, what did Billy Wagner start at his first year? 14%.
Wow.
I think it was 14% his first year, but the ballot
he didn't fall off.
But the ballot was fuller, and he went up every single year. And good for Billy Wagner for getting in. We talked about him when we did the Hall of Fame show. On this group of players, who are you keeping on?
Well,
Like, who are you worried about that's going to fall
let's
off
go with
the
that
bat?
since we have it. Nope, not hurdleisms. Hall of Fame. Sorry. There's the ballot. I'll tell you the guy that got hosed I thought was Beltran. People they're gonna hold that Astro thing against him.
He'll get in next year because there's no first timer next year.
No.
Ryan Braun's not getting in. Not happening.
Nope.
I mean, if Manny and A-Rod aren't in, Ryan Braun's not getting in. Cole Hamels is not getting in the Hall of Fame. I don't think.
No, he's not.
And there's nobody else on the ballot next year. So Beltran for sure. He was so close this year.
Andrew Jones got to make
it. Andrew Jones. And that might be it next year.
You know what's funny? I think it was not Gaetti put up a tweet saying, did Andrew Jones play too long? Because that if you took his stats with his defensive metrics, and like say he played in, or Chipper Jones wrote, if he played in New York,
he'd already be in.
He'd already be in. And he is right about that. But not Gaetti put in, did he stay too long? Did he kind of maybe get a reputation as a compiler when he had already compiled?
Well, compared to who? Compared to who? Harold Baines? Eddie Murray?
You know what? Thank you for bringing him up. I've always called Eddie Murray a compiler, and people look at me like I'm nuts. And Hal Baines, great hitter. But
good for guys for having a long career. Great for having a long career and being consistent. Andrew Jones was a better player with your eyeballs than either one of those two players.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's not a slight on either Eddie Murray or it's not a slight on Eddie Murray or Harold Baines. Andrew Jones was a better baseball. Look, watching the game, Andrew Jones made more of an impact on the game on a game-to-game basis with a combination of what he did at the plate and especially what he did in the field than either one of those other two players.
Yeah, I agree.
And I mean, it's like the arguments for, you put the stats like Mark Burley versus CC Sabathia. Like Mark Burley's stats compared to CC are pretty close. Kurt Schilling versus CC Sabathia. I mean, Schilling's not in because he can't keep his mouth shut.
The ketchup king of Boston,
which is stupid. What more of what I heard today in relation to the unanimous thing was less anger that Ichiro didn't get a vote and more of either A, there's too many voters. There's too many voters, or B, there needs to be full disclosure of all ballots.
There should be. And, Buster Olney had a great tweet in an industry that really has to, for legitimacy, should be transparent. Why isn't this?
Exactly. Because you can't hide behind, because you can hide behind your sanctimonious bullshit and you're holier than thou, focus on whatever is in your craw over why you didn't vote for a guy or why you should vote for a guy. Like, I don't know who it was. Somebody the ballots were coming out last night. I just sent a note to somebody and they had Manny and A-Rod on their ballot. And I just said, like, I'm not going to argue with anybody's ballot. Would you, when Bonds and Clemens were on the ballot, did you vote for him? And he's like, yes. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. But the stance is softening. The stance is definitely softening on PED players. It'll be too late for Ramirez. It might not be for A-Rod.
Oh, it's going to be. He pissed off so many people with his arrogance and his denials and lying. It ain't going to happen.
Plus he failed on a Major League Baseball administered test.
There's that. Look, whether it's fair or not,
that's the line for me.
The one thing we've gotten away from, thank God, is the debate on, well, a guy isn't really a first ballot Hall of Famer, so I'll vote for him next year. That's outdated. That's even older than my mindset. Because I don't, if a guy's a Hall of Famer, then vote for him. Yes or no? Is he a Hall of Famer or not? It shouldn't matter if first ballot. Vote for him.
Well, it's also not as loaded. I mean, there's also not as many. When was the last year where there was a pile of 4 or 5 guys that became eligible and it was their first year of eligibility, and you're like, wow, like all these players should be in the
Yeah.
Hall of Fame.
I don't know.
And they're
That's a
not
great
all going to
question.
get in this year because they're not.
Yeah.
Because there's too many. We're not there right now. I mean, who's the next person that's coming up that's an automatic is Albert Pujols.
Yeah.
And that is 2028. So the next 2 years are opportunities for Beltran, Jones, those players or nobody.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's call this up again. Okay. We already went through, you actually hit the highlights on the first year guys next year. It's not impressive.
No,
Other than the steroid guys, I don't see it. I mean, Omar Vizquel, I still say no. Chase Utley had a good run this year, though.
you're going to keep Kurt Schilling out of the Hall of Fame for running his mouth, and you're going to hold PED usage against Manny Ramirez and Alex Rodriguez, and you're okay voting for Omar Vizquel.
Yeah.
You better look at your fucking moral compass. I mean, you better take a good hard look at what you consider to be, like, I guess if you cheat the game, you can't get in. If you beat your wife, it's okay.
Yeah, right.
I know the Hall of Fame's full of bad guys, but you can't disqualify Kurt Schilling for running his mouth, and I'm not going to vote for him, or Jeff Kent because he was a dick when he was in the clubhouse, and then say it's okay to vote for Omar Vizquel.
True. You know who may benefit next year also? I think Bobby Abreu didn't get a sniff this year again.
He wasn't even close.
No, that was probably the biggest shocker. I thought the guy, and I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but maybe another year to resonate on that ballot is Felix Hernandez, because I think he's close. I just don't think he had the dominance for as long as what I think a Hall of Famer is. But maybe
I think
there.
Jimmy Ramos will get some more love too. So Beltran was 70.3%. He's getting in next year.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Andrew Jones was 66%. He'll probably get in next year. Then it went all the way down to Utley at 39.8. Like a 39.8, you got some work to do.
Yes, he does. But again, when you look at the field next year, that ballot next year, he's going to look better. Does that matter? I don't know.
No, I mean, you're right. I mean, Pettit at 28%, Felix Hernandez at 21%. He's going to look better, but it's a long stretch for like a guy like Jimmy Rollins, who Larry Bowa is like, I don't know. I watched them all, and he was as good as every one of those guys that was in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
When I was watching him, for him to go from 71 votes to 320 votes, that's a lot of that's 250 votes in 1 year is a lot.
Yeah.
Like you really got it. Like you really have to do some, that's a lot. I mean, something crazy has to happen. And it always does. And don't discount the fact that some new bullshit stat will come out that all of a sudden one of these guys will be like the career leader in something that nobody ever believed that was a thing. Outs above replacement, outs below replacement in innings 1 through 3 in day games. Joey jumping Johnny Joey was the all-time leader, surpassing Babe Ruth and Ted Williams. And now he's got to be in the Hall of Fame because I made up this
Sure.
bullshit stat to make my case for him.
You sound like Keith Law now, making stuff up. Idiot. There's a reason why he blocked me on Twitter. All right. You ready to get to the important task in hand?
Yeah.
Draft projections. Which one you want to start at? You can click.
Well, we're going around the horn, so we're going to start at shortstop, right?
Okay.
To nobody's surprise, we both had the same person at number one.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
And then it went off then it all went off the rails a little bit.
It's mostly the same guys. I wanted to get your thoughts. You have Betts 2. I have him 6. Just that's no slight to Betts. That's just how good this position is in our league.
Yeah.
Here's your weekly reminder for our league. We're in a 12-team league. You keep 5 guys, 5x5 league. The top 10 on my list are probably being kept, though one team has Bobby Witt and Willie Adames. But I spoke to him the other day, and I think he's going to save Adames. And although he should make a trade with me to get some players with talent, more talent. But it's a great position because you get a lot of studs there. But like if I'm heading into our draft and top 10 are gone, or you're even top 9,
yeah.
I'm okay with the guys at the bottom. I'm not going to get a stud keeper, but you don't necessarily have to take one early because not many are going to go.
Well, there's still a bunch of questions on this list, right? So, one, O'Neal Cruz will be position eligible until he's not because we're moving him to center field, so I didn't rank him.
Okay.
Right? CJ Abrams, I'm sorry. Like, I know he's got all the potential in the world.
Yeah.
But he fell off the cliff after June 1st last year and then became a behavioral problem and got sent to the minors because he couldn't stay out of the casinos until 8 o'clock in the morning.
It'll be interesting to see how he handles that. Is that an eye opener or is that
it?
More to come, right?
Yeah, or you're going to be on another team.
Like Seager's a stud, but I just
like Bo Bichette's got to prove to me he remembers how to hit.
You know what? I didn't have Bo Bichette on this list at first because
I wouldn't take Bo Bichette if I had to take Bo Bichette. Zachary Neto is.
I'll tell you why.
Zachary Neto is probably the bigger is not probably. He's a big question mark because he's going to be coming off surgery, and though he had the same thing last year, he got hurt early, and then I was lucky enough to grab him, and he was fantastic.
Look, I'll go back to Bichette for a second. He's just too good of a player to he's more the player he was a couple of years ago, not last year. I'll plant my flag on that one because he just can't. It's possible, maybe he could, but I don't think so. He's just too talented.
He is, yeah. He is too talented. He's certainly too talented to have the season he had last year. He just got on the treadmill last year and he couldn't get off it.
Yeah. No, it was a disaster.
And then he got injured, and then sometimes when you're going bad and you're injured, maybe you're not in such a huge rush to get back because it's already a mess. And knowing, the way Toronto is, maybe they're like, you know what, what's the rush? We're out of it. We don't really need you to come back.
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's a player I really enjoyed having on my team last year. I think he's a breakout candidate, and he's somebody I would consider drafting this position. If I look at Bichette, I'm like, you know what? I'm not sure. Give me a flyer on Mason Wynn late in the draft because he's a good player.
Yeah.
He's got to get more of the counting stats, though, to really impact it. That's why I like your Xavier Edwards that you have up there at 9.
Yeah. Is he their best offensive player in Miami?
Well, they don't have any, but
with
sure.
Their big, giant $42 million payroll.
That's like saying the best quarterback in the upcoming NFL draft. None of them are any good. So, yeah, someone's got to be the best.
So, no Bogarts, who we had at second base last week. No Carlos Correa, who, Carlos Correa, when he played last year, he wasn't terrible.
His counting stats were pretty good, and he hit.
No Jeremy Pena. Neither of us have Volpe.
I didn't have Volpe's on the never again list.
Yeah, I knew you were. I knew you were going to have Volpe.
No,
If Volpe finished second to Bobby Witt and the MVP, you still wouldn't have had him on here.
no, I would. Well, look, I've had him parts of the first 2 years for him, and I just think in some cases, and maybe it just hasn't clicked yet. In some cases, like Dallas Cowboy fans think Dak Prescott is the greatest thing ever because he's the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. Same with Romo. No, it doesn't make you great. It just makes you that particular team's quarterback. I think he's kind of in that same thing where people think he's really better than he really is just because he's the Yankee shortstop and they know what they had all those years.
Well, for fantasy, yes. Day to day, he is an outstanding fielding shortstop.
Okay.
So baseball player wise, he gives you what maybe this is what he is. Maybe he's not, he's certainly not going to be 300 with 50 stolen bases because they're not going to run like that in front of Judge, and he'll never be in a part of the lineup where he does.
And that's the problem.
He does need to hit more. He needs to look more like he did as the playoffs were moving around than he did for most of the regular season. Like Tyler Fitzgerald is an interesting guy for me, but is he going to end up being the second baseman in San Francisco?
Well, yeah, because I think Adames is going to play shortstop.
Yeah, we're not going to move Adames to third.
No, you got
a platinum glove third baseman there.
Yeah,
and he got a contract.
Yes. Yeah, so I think that's how that goes.
So how about Jeremy Pena for you?
You know what? No, he just doesn't do enough. He just what's his ceiling? You know, he may have already. He's not a bad
break
player.
for him, right? Could be a make or break for him this year. This could be it for him in Houston. He's going to have to produce, or they're going to have to find somebody else.
You got Dansby Swanson in there, and I like Dansby Swanson. I think he's a good rebound candidate as well. Which, again, we capped our list to 12 just because we didn't have any more room.
Right.
But you think about it. I mean, this position, what I like about it, it goes 16 or 17 deep.
Yeah, I mean, what you get out of the top 4 or 5, like what you get out of them, if you don't already have them, you're not going to hurt yourself by just grabbing, change the order around from 7 down or 6 down.
Yeah.
If Seager bounces back and Turner has a Trey Turner year, and all of a sudden you're 7 or 8 deep at this position with elite, productive fantasy players. Most of them, and almost all of them, in really good lineups, right?
Yeah.
With the exception on your list of Cruz. I mean, they're in good lineups, and they're young. I feel like we're back to A-Rod, Jeter, Nomar years, right? I mean, it's pretty deep. As weak as we were talking about second base last week, and the third base is going to be an interesting conversation too. There's some really good young talent at shortstop in the majors right now. Really?
Yeah, there is. And you got some other kids coming. Jacob Wilson in Oakland. Somebody will make the mistake and draft Trevor Story. And let him just rot on your injured list. But there's some other guys. There's some other guys that can play. That's why
Marcelo Maris coming in Boston. I mean, there's some guys coming.
This is a position, like I said last week about second base. If you don't have one of the top 6 guys, we'll say, okay, well, you can't get him. But now you can look at this position and say, okay, when it's time to fill that need, what does my team need?
Right.
Okay. And that's kind of a luxury thing. That's why the second base, after the top 3, you can pick and choose which guy fits my team the best. And the variety that's available here helps you do that.
Right. Well, how many weeks during the regular season last year, when we were doing who's hot and who's not, did we talk about how hot Willy Adames was?
Oh, he was our Seth Lugo of the offense.
And he was a late. I don't know what his average draft position was last year, but he was a late. He was not drafted particularly high, even though he had a pretty decent 2023. He
Yeah.
had a huge he had a huge year at the right time last year. Like getting ready to get paid is a good time to have a good year.
Yes.
When you're getting ready to get paid, it's a good time to have your best overall year of your career.
For sure.
Now,
Did we
whether
talk
those
about
stats
Corey
will
Seager?
translate from Milwaukee to San Francisco, who knows?
I don't know. Did we talk about Seager?
I
I don't think we did.
I think injuries derailed him last year.
Yeah. And that hurts his ADP big time. Guys are scared.
And adding Berger, a full year of a healthy young, an expected bounce back for Garcia and Simeon. I would expect him to have when we look at this at the end of the year, to both have them higher at the end of the year than we do right now.
If he can stay healthy, he's in the top 5, top 6, top 7 for sure. He's a monster when he's healthy, but some of these guys, they're just, I don't want to say they're injury prone, but they're just always have something. And not necessarily, it's Mike Trout running into the wall every year. Dude, stop that. Stop doing that.
Yeah, they get hurt playing baseball. They don't get hurt doing.
Yeah, so Seager, it's a frustrating thing with him, and it's a shame because he's an elite talent.
Oh yeah.
He was hurt a couple years ago and then missed a bunch of games and still was runner up for MVP and took off in the World Series.
Yeah. And that's what made you think that last year was going to be a huge year for him.
Yeah.
As he was pulling that, he was coming, he was coming up that tailwind of an unbelievable second half and World Series run, and it never really materialized for him. Not even a little bit.
The funny CBS has him projected for 100 runs, 45 homers, 107 RBIs, and hit 311.
And you've got him 7th. I've got him 7th, and you've got him 9th.
Because I don't think he's going to get. I don't think he's going to get the 565 at bats that they think.
He should be second.
He should be,
with those numbers, he should be second.
Those are top 10 baseball numbers.
It's everything that Bobby Witt does except for run.
Yeah. But are you gonna how high are you gonna take that given the fact that he gets hurt a lot? It's the reason I can't trade Chris Sale in our league. Nobody wants him because of his injury history. You're scared to take that leap. You'll draft him later, but you're not gonna. How much are you gonna invest? How much are you willing to risk? Now, the flip side of that is if he is that good, then you take those numbers while you can. He's going to get hurt. It's like when you draft Clayton Kershaw, you're going to have 1 or 2 stints. You're going to miss a month.
Right.
But enjoy the stats. Now he's a little older, but enjoy the stats while you can get them and then sit him down. Hopefully he doesn't get hurt on a Monday right after the lineup lock.
I mean, right now, Corey Seager's average draft position is 42. That's somewhere between round 3 and round 4.
Yeah. And I could justify that. I wouldn't be me, but I could understand why somebody would do that. CBS has him ranked 36 in the preseason rankings.
Yeah. 36 overall.
Yeah.
But then, like, Dela Cruz is 6.
Yeah.
Trey Turner's like 24. Like these,
all those guys.
They're like shortstop dominates. Shortstop as a position dominates the top 50.
Yeah, it's like the Big Ten in football. Especially with Nebraska coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Freight train.
Should have stayed in the Big 12.
Freight train coming.
It would have won the Big 12.
No, we'll win the Big next year. Write that down.
Yeah, you better find a couple $100 million to pay players.
No, we're good. We're good. Everyone, it's a destination campus, Lincoln, Nebraska.
Yeah, I remember when I was there, I was thinking, you know what? This is a place I could hunker down and expand my roots.
Friendly people. They welcome me with
Very
open
friendly.
arms.
Very friendly. 6 weekends a year. It's the most popular city. It's the most populous city in Nebraska.
Those people just kept buying me drinks and shots, and all I had to say was, "Yeah, I flew myself out for my 40th birthday."
Could have said
Get him
no.
a shot.
You could have said no.
No, I was on vacation in the red zone, the bar, the red zone. When they said, "Hey, every time you you get to do a shot, you get 6 free chicken wings." I'm like, "I'm from New York, man. You're losing money tonight, especially
If
now."
memory serves me correctly, did Texas Tech win that game? They did.
Yeah, only because Lakeven Smith intercepted a ball at the 10-yard line in the closing seconds and decided he was a running back instead of defensive tackle and fumbled it right back to Sonny Cumbie and the Texas Tech Red
Right
Raiders.
back to him.
I was so hungover that day.
The quietest I've ever heard a stadium with 80,000 people in it in my life.
Yeah, it sucked. All right, let's get
Like
back to baseball.
2,500 Texas Tech fans there and a sea of red.
Yep.
Fun.
Shall we go to third base?
We shall go to third base.
I'll put them up.
And
Yeah.
I feel like third base is one guy, 1.5 guys, and then we can start talking about all the rest of them.
Yeah, the one
Well,
guy I'm going to mention.
No shock, right, that we both have
Yeah.
Jose Ramirez. And while we're talking about Jose Ramirez, how about the Guardians removing the Jose Ramirez page from their Instagram reel, setting off a flurry of speculation that there might be something in the works in a trade for Jose Ramirez?
Wow. That would be stupid. For a team that just went to the ALCS, that would be stupid.
It'd be pretty, at face value, it would be pretty stupid. Depending on what they got in return, it might not be so stupid.
That's stupid.
He's coming up to having to get paid again. He's certainly not going to sign. He's certainly not going to sign for the contract he signed for last time.
I'm looking at his numbers. They would be stupid. But again, do they want to compete? Look at how good they were last year. Look how better than I thought they were going to be last year.
Yeah.
You know, they battled the Yankees and you know,
yeah.
Clase forgot that he was talented. I don't know why you would regress. What are you going to trade him for? Bunch of guys in their prime? Who's going to do that? Because he's 32, 33 now.
Well, you already traded Josh Naylor, so how are you going to replace, a 30-30 player with 100 RBIs and 100 runs scored that hits, 290 to 310?
Yeah, trading Josh Naylor is stupid too.
How are you going to, how do you replace it? Like, what do you get back? Unless you're going to punt, unless you figure, you know what, we have enough pitching that we can hang around, and we got some young guys that are coming up that maybe we can hang around. But 2 years from now, we're not going to be very good. So we better retool now while we can. I mean, if you trade him to the Yankees and you get Spencer Jones or Jason Dominguez in a package with a bunch of other prospects, it might not be a bad move.
I still say it's stupid, but I understand where you're going with that. It just seems like you were so close last year to just tear it down. I get again. Yeah, you want to trade guys when he's at his highest value to maximize your return. His value's been high for years. It's not going to be any higher than it is now. I agree with that. That's just a tough. That's tough chance to take.
The tougher part is, how do you trade the face of your franchise? That's the tougher part. The tougher part is, how do you make a decision to trade the face of your franchise? That's the tougher part. So he's clearly number one. He's
Yeah.
clearly number one. You have Austin Riley at 2. I get that. I wanted to move him higher, but he had such a rough year last year. I might need to see it again before he moves up for me. I mean,
Yeah, I used the Matt
I have
Olson.
Devers at 2, even though they want to try to find a way to get another third baseman so they can move him to first base and save him. I mean, all he does is hit. That's all he does. I mean, he hits. That's what he does. And in that lineup, he's gonna put up gigantic stats in that lineup.
I have Riley high for the same reason I had Matt Olson high at first base. I think the Braves as a collective are going to be much better this year offensively. They all were terrible last year.
Yeah.
The guys that were hurt weren't there, and the guys who weren't hurt weren't there. Olson only hit 30. He dropped down from 54 to 30 in 1 year. He's better than that. Riley has been a pretty consistent since he burst onto the scene. I think they just had a general malaise going on that whole lineup last year. They're just better than that.
Well,
So that's why
Acuna got hurt, and Albie's got hurt.
Yep.
And when your top 2 hitters in your lineup, especially the number 1 hitter, who creates so much chaos and is so good, that ripple effect was massive for them. And Michael Harris had a terrible first half.
And Michael, I was going to say he got it going the second half, but he wasn't any good either. So I think the Braves as a whole will be better. That's really the biggest reason I got Riley up there.
So we both have Jazz at 4.
Yep. Are you keeping him?
I don't know yet. Probably. Probably. I'm trying to convince myself into why I should keep Royce Lewis over Jazz Chisholm. I think one of those 2 guys is going to be playing second base.
Yeah.
Royce Lewis was so hurt that it was terrifying last year when he played. When he came back from the last injury, he wasn't very good. When he played up to the last injury, he was dominating every single time he was in the lineup. The guy for me who has the highest ceiling of anybody after Ramirez to me is Vientos.
Yeah.
I mean, when he got his footing and got comfortable and they sent Beatty back down and said, "Hey, you're playing third base." He mashed last year.
He may get moved to first base though if they let Alonso go.
They very well.
You know, the guy I like to come back this year is Josh Young in Texas.
He was on here until I decided to put Bregman on.
I omitted Bregman the first time we did this, and that's probably just because I hate him. So I had to put him on the list because he deserves to be here. But there's other guys I like Arenado. His best days are by him. I don't think he's gonna be in St. Louis. I think he's gonna find a home somewhere else. Maybe it'll rejuvenate him for a year or so. Maybe he'll be real interesting this year.
The guy that you have that maybe, if you look at the preseason stuff, he's probably ranked higher than he should be, but he might be an omission for me at the end of the year is Connor Norby, who was nothing short of excellent for Miami after he finally got a chance to play every day when he got traded there.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about bad teams, and the Marlins are that, the thing about bad teams is somebody has to produce. Like somebody has to produce. I have a basketball equal for it. I call it the Elton Brand syndrome. When the Clippers were horrible, Elton Brand was a borderline all-star because he got all the stats. Yeah. And then he got a giant contract and he went to be back to, then he sucked. Like 2 years later, he's out of the league.
That's because he went to Duke.
but he was on a terrible team, and somebody has to produce on a bad team. You're not going to have a lineup full of, you're not going to hit 100 unless you're the White Sox. You're not going to hit 100 as a team. And he's a good fielder, and he's going to be in the lineup.
What about Bohm? I mean, they were thought they were going to move him. What's his status in Philly?
They want to trade him. I don't know why they want to trade him. When I watched far more Phillies games than I probably should. He was awful in the second half. He was really bad in the second half. In the first half, he was their best player.
Yep.
In the first half, he was their best player. He doesn't hit for power, which is a knock against him as a third baseman. The fact that he plays third base in Philadelphia, it's going to be a knock. It's the same thing Roland went through when he was here. Like, he's not Mike Schmidt. No kidding. No kidding. No kidding.
It's my birthday twin.
I mean, of course he's not Mike Schmidt. Of course he's not. Like, it's. I mean, give me a break. But Seattle wants him. Apparently, the Yankees were interested in him. Apparently, the Red Sox were interested in him. Apparently, I don't know what the hell Seattle's doing. I mean, if anybody needs him, if any of those three teams need him, it's Seattle that needs him. Seattle needs another bat. He can't be worse than what they're rolling out there right now. They need production in that lineup. They're going to waste Julio Rodriguez's career because they're not going to add any pieces around him offensively.
I'm sending a tweet to El Jefe and Major League Baseball because they just released that idiot, the shredder.
Oh, this idiot.
That idiot.
It's got to be a computer generated. It has to be a computer generated thing. Like the shredder left Ozzie Albies off his second base rankings. Come on.
They put it a little while ago. I'm just seeing it now, but the shredder released his shortstop rankings and Bobby Witt is fourth.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's Vitali's responding to that.
Nobody. I've said this. I feel like I've said this 100,000 times, and I might be understating it. Of the four major sports in North America, Major League Baseball is worse at marketing their sport than any of them. You don't need what you don't need to do, and they do it all the time. And Brian Kenny, God bless him, is famous for this too. You don't need to create controversy with rankings. Like, why do things that put your fan base in attack mode against you? Because you can't grow the rest of your platform if they don't take half of the platform. If we don't take half the platform seriously, like, how do you grow your platform as a marketing organization if you roll this dick to shredder out? However that, if it's a person, he's a total idiot. He's probably the person that didn't vote for Ichiro. And if it's like some analytical computer driven AI thing, then they shouldn't have bought an IBM. They should have bought a Mac. I mean, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why? It doesn't need to be. It doesn't. You don't need to put yourself in a situation where you have a lessening fan base year over year. You now have a fan base that thinks the Dodgers are Frankenstein. So now they're getting totally disenchanted with the game. You got a pending potential long lockout coming in 2027. And you're the marketing tool. And oh, by the way, you're starting to be the broadcast rights for many teams.
Yes.
And you're going to be controversial in the process. And you think that's what's going to draw people to your platform. It doesn't work like that. That's not, it doesn't, you're not a content creator, a 22-year-old content creator on YouTube. You're not. You're fucking Major League Baseball. So how about like represent yourself like you know something about the game, and then feature the players instead of featuring yourselves, because that's all this does. Like having a listed shortstop with Bobby Witt not number one just makes it about it totally takes away from the players. So they don't market players well as it is.
No.
And they should be, of anybody on that list, Bobby Witt should be the guy they want to market, right?
Absolutely.
Ed plays in Middle America, signed to stay with a smaller market team, plays the game the right way. He was great at the All-Star game and great during Home Run Derby, and they have a perfect opportunity to market him. Gunnar Henderson, Ellie Dela Cruz, who all he wants to do is learn another language when he gets a teammate that speaks a different language, like cool stuff like that, where they can market these guys. And instead, they have this bullshit shredder thing that just, like, I haven't even seen a list. I'm already pissed off because I've been pissed off at every other list that I've seen from that. The first one was catcher with no Sal Perez. Like, what are you doing? Like, obviously the shredder doesn't watch baseball.
No, it's terrible.
You can't be so deep in analytics and the analytical perception of players. And from a fantasy standpoint, you certainly can't be. Unless you've got scoring categories that are heavily advanced analytic driven, right? Like if WAR is a category, you know, if stuff like that are categories for you instead of like the traditional categories, and I'll count OPS now as a new traditional category and holds as a new traditional category. Like I'll count those because they become pretty mainstream. But if you've got advanced analytical categories in your league, then okay, then you're going to go way down the rabbit hole. But quite frankly, like if I'm drafting in our league and you told me that, how can you have Jazz Chisholm as high as 4 because his WAR was, 12.3 and Mark Vientos's was 15.8. I'm like, well, because Jazz Chisholm could steal 35 bases. That's why. Exactly. That's where he's going to help. That's where he's going to help me from a fantasy perspective. Exactly. He's going to be a 25-25 guy. Now, is he going to hit 35 homers and drive in 100 like Vientos? No, but maybe I need that other thing more.
No, but he might hit 27 or 28.
He might.
Right? So.
And he might hit 12 and be traded at the All-Star break again.
Yeah. Or he'll get hurt again.
Or he'll get injured. But I just don't get. We're in a little bit of a tangent because third base is so. There's really not a lot of talk about at third base, right? Like there's really not.
You got some young guys, you got some old guys, you got Machado high up there. I lowered him a little bit.
I do. He had a really good year last year.
He did.
He's still producing. He's in a great lineup. He doesn't show any signs of slowing down. I hate him. I am not a Manny Machado fan. I mean, I don't care where I got him ranked. I'm never going to draft the guy.
Yeah.
I shouldn't say never because I probably will take him if he's available this year. But but would I rather have, like, this is a category for me that I know I'm not going to get Ramirez because he's going to be saved. I know I'm not going to get Devers because he's going to be saved. I might have a chance to take Austin Riley. But this is a category for me where I would be okay rolling the dice on, Vientos. There's too many Met fans in our specific league that he's going to go way much higher than I'd probably be in a position to take him. But I'd be okay saying, I'm going to roll a dice on Lewis, Paredes, Caminero, Connor Norby, Young. I'm going to roll a dice on one of those guys, and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, for me,
I'm always going to be able to find somebody. Somebody always comes out of the woodwork. Somebody always sneaks up on you at third base, and you're like, "Wow, all of a sudden this guy's having a great year." Or I want Matt Chapman until Memorial Day, and then I want to go.
for me, I can see myself landing on my 8 through 10 guys, right?
Yeah.
Young, Arenado, Norby. There's another guy out there that always puts up good numbers, and I didn't rank him this year because this is the year I think he goes off the cliff a little bit. Eugenio Suarez. But boy, when he gets hot, he can carry a fantasy team.
He was from, I can't remember the date, but it wasn't deep into the year. Like just after, from just after Memorial Day.
Yeah,
He was the third most productive third baseman in baseball.
that's crazy.
He had a
He's been
phenomenal
around.
year last year. And
He
he
did.
was hitting like 130 in early May.
Yeah,
Like everybody thought it was the end of him.
And that's not the first time he's gotten off to not a bad start, a horrific start. But he just keeps kind of reinventing himself. He's 33 now. That's not too bad. I thought he was older.
I thought didn't he come up when he was 19?
Yeah, maybe.
He was very young when he came up. So
2014, he got 85 games with the Tigers and then over to the Reds in 2015.
So he's 11 years in.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in year 11. I mean, he's a 15th ranked position player. I mean, the other guy that was not that we don't have on here is who had a really good year last year was Miguel Garcia.
Yeah.
And I would never rank Max Muncy on this list. I don't know what's gonna become of him. The guy that's not ranked that I think has the potential to take the biggest jump, whether he stays where he is right now or he gets traded, is Ke'Bryan Hayes. If he gets traded to a team that matters, he may have a big bounce back.
There's a couple guys on this. Garcia's great, but the home runs are really, really, really deficient. Christopher Morel, I've had him, but he doesn't hit enough. Like Muncy, right? If you need home runs, go get Max Muncy, but you got to live with a 220 batting average. Can you do that? Yeah, if you're constructed the right way, sure, because he's going to give you a bunch of other good stuff.
Well, you better take two because he's also going to miss 40 games.
Jace Young, it'll be interesting this year what he does.
Yeah,
with Detroit.
Uncle Ted, welcome, Uncle Ted.
There
whining about the Texans game, but that's okay. So he's got a top 5 third baseman, and we're never going to guess who he's talking about.
He's a righty.
It's got to be Vientos. He's a righty.
Josh Donaldson's still playing?
he's
a righty.
Jackson Holiday.
He's not going to throw Ryan McMahon at us.
No, that's not a bad choice though.
Rockies guys are terrible. Well, he's a Met.
No, it's Brett Beatty.
Is it Beatty? Come on, Uncle Ted. You're holding us.
I mean, my first guess was Vientos, but
yeah.
He's a Met. And it's not Beatty or Vientos?
Uncle Ted's got to type faster.
I know. Now my head hurts.
There it is.
Yeah.
Now I got to research this guy. The little boy.
That's Ronald's brother. He had a good year last. When he finally got called up, he had a really good year for them when he got called up. When he got called up, he was surprised. I think he was surprising. He wasn't that highly ranked a prospect for the Mets.
Yeah.
But he got to the big leagues and he was pretty damn productive.
He's 22, 5'8", short.
Yeah. The guy to watch is Matt Shaw in Chicago on the Cubs. I'm not watching anybody. I'm not watching anybody on the White Sox. The only person I'm watching on the White Sox is Lewis Robert to see if he gets traded. If he gets traded to anywhere.
All right, they got Acuna for Max Scherzer. That's
who they might get back. I saw that this week that the Mets were talking to Max Scherzer. You're gonna pay him twice.
Jesus. It's like
you're gonna sign him to a contract and then you're already paying him deferred money from when you traded him before. When you signed him for a huge contract, like he's gonna have 2 contracts with you.
Call it a day. It's just like Verlander going to San Francisco. Just go home to your wife.
Scherzer's talking to the Blue Jays.
Be done with it.
Scherzer should go back to Detroit. He should go back to Detroit on a 1-year minimum contract and finish out in Detroit and ride off into the sunset.
Okay.
And get paid the same day that Bobby Bonilla gets paid for the next 25 years from Washington and from the Mets.
Yes. All right. You ready to go NFL picks? I don't know if there's much of a hot stove update. I know I listed that at the start.
What? No, the hot stove update is the Dodgers. The Dodgers made a run at Aaron Glenn before the Jets signed him as their head coach. I mean,
hey man, they're playing by the rules.
Look, I mean, Tanner Scott, Kirby Yates. I did see Kopech's got some arm issues again.
Yeah.
And I mean, so they got the best lineup, the best starting pitching, and the best bullpen. And they're talking to Kenley Jansen about coming back. Look, they can do whatever they want. They have the. I mean, number one, if they wanted to be talked about, they've done a really good job of staying incredibly relevant. They give them credit for that.
Every sport is better. Every sport is better when you have a protagonist, and they're
absolutely. Yep,
they're it. They've supplanted the Yankees in that role,
and getting Sasaki. So I mean, so like the hot stove has been pretty much them this week, except for Santander going to Toronto, which finally the Blue Jays got somebody. Whether he'll be able to duplicate what he did last year, I don't know. But if he gives them 2023 Anthony Santander, that's still pretty damn good in that lineup. Yeah. And they needed an outfielder in the worst way. I mean, it's been pretty quiet. I mean, what it has done is it's fueled a lot of salary cap conversation, which will never happen. There'll never be a salary cap. It's gotten the Pirate fans to chant "Sell the team" at Pirate Fan Fest. I mean, that's happening, and Bob Nutting said, "I'm not selling this team. I want to win." Like, okay,
yeah,
you've shown us everything except for that, right? You haven't shown anybody that you want to. Paul Sewell signed with the Guardians today.
Yeah,
to add another piece to their bullpen, so I guess they're going with just openers for the entire year, or maybe they realized that their bullpen was completely gassed when the playoffs started last year. I mean, maybe that's what the Guardians are thinking, that we blew our bullpen out, and when we really needed them, they didn't have anything left in the tank.
Yeah,
they were seeing the same. Yankees saw the same guys every game, so at some point you're going to hit them.
Yeah, get back to the Dodgers a second. All this deferred money, that is got to blow up on them at some point.
Yeah,
it's got to. It just has to.
Well, you would think. You would think so, but they're going to draw close to $4 million. They're spending $100 million on the stadium. Dodger dog's going to be $75. Unless the stadium burns down in the fires, God, hopefully not. But they're playing by the rules that are in front of them, and the Players Association. The Players Association is never going to vote on anything that's going to change a deferred payroll structure ever. Because why would you?
Yeah, no incentive.
But why would, okay, I'm going to sign $100 million contract. I'm going to get 25 million of it over the 5 years that I'm on the team, and I'm going to get the other 75 million over the 30 years that I'm not in baseball. Who would not sign up for that?
Yeah.
It protects you from yourself, quite frankly. It protects you from yourself. And no agent's going to say no to that because they're going to get a piece of that check every year. So instead of getting a one-time lump sum off a big contract from somebody, they're going to get it in the same dribs and drabs that the players get it.
Yeah, no, Uncle Ted just made a post on the O's. He's right. They made the playoffs. They won 90 games, fourth lowest payroll. What'd that get them? They got them nothing in the playoffs, and they're the exception to the rule. Because the teams that aren't
Cleveland's in the bottom 8.
What's that?
Cleveland's under 80 million.
Okay, but the dregs of the league are the ones that aren't spending money.
Where the whole thing unravels is everybody bitch about the Dodgers, everybody bitch about the Dodgers, everybody bitch about the Dodgers, everybody bitch about the Dodgers. Cubs have their Cub Fest. Sammy Sosa comes back to the Cubs. Nice story. Ryan Sandberg was healthy enough to be there. Huge ovation for him, a bunch of pictures. And they come out and say, we can't raise our payroll because we can't lose money.
Yep.
And they got $500 million in revenue and a $225 million payroll. And they can't add another player?
Yeah. They don't want to.
And the Ricketts family's worth billions.
Yep.
And the franchise has increased by like $3.1 billion since they bought it.
And they draw well, whether they're good or bad. People are still going to go.
Yeah, it's a destination stadium. People are going to go even if they're not Cub fans, right? So, like, I went.
Yep.
I've been there 4 or 5 times. I mean, I love going to Wrigley.
So do
I love everything about it.
Everything.
Great place to watch a game. Fans are a blast. Old style and a Chicago dog hanging around Wrigley Town. It's as cool as it is.
Yeah, that's on them. They have money. And look, I don't stop focusing on the Dodgers for a minute. Focus on getting that salary floor in there and make some of these other guys compete. And again, the Ricketts family, I still contend, if you are a professional sports owner and you're in it for the money, get out. Get out.
Well, there's got to be an element where you're in it for the money because, there is an element of owning any business where you're in it for the money. But if you own a professional sports team and winning is not the number one thing, and Ted, be better GMs. To Ted's point, give your GMs the tools to be able to compete. How's Kansas City do it?
Well, Jack Flaherty said the same thing on Twitter over the weekend, or it might have been yesterday or Monday on the day off, when he's like, don't blame the Dodgers. The other guys are sitting around doing nothing, other teams.
They're doing nothing. They're doing nothing. What's Tampa done? Nothing. Except for try to find a way to trade their arbitration-eligible players. The Marlins haven't spent a nickel.
The A's are only spending money because they have to, or else they're going to get a grievance and lose some of that revenue sharing money, like $70 million.
Yeah, they got to raise that. So that's where the floor comes in, right? So you raise the floor to that minimum to a higher minimum spend, but from an A's standpoint, you can't go to a new city and just move your bullshit franchise, your non-directional franchise there. You've got to show something.
Yeah.
You got to show something.
That's why they're doing that now.
Dave Stewart just took a job with them in the front office as
Yeah.
in some capacity.
Uncle Ted, John Fisher's not going to sell the team. I've been calling them for over a year, imploring them to do so.
Well, it'd be good. I mean,
He'll actually scratch that. He's going to sell the team when as soon as they put a shovel in the ground. He might be right about Utah. They're more apt to end up in Salt Lake City than they are in Las Vegas. They're not going to Vegas.
yeah, he's going to get a stadium. It's going to quadruple the value of the franchise, and then he's going to bail. And it's going to be somebody else's challenge to build it up.
Yep.
I mean, to me, it's disappointing that Bob Nutting's not interested in selling the Pirates. Because Major League Baseball is better when the Pirates are good. But I'll be there. I'll be there in April. I'll be in PNC Park. I'll be in PNC Park the first weekend in April when the Yankees are there.
All right.
Opening day in Pittsburgh's the 4th. That's a Friday. Yankees are their home opener, and then they're there Saturday and Sunday, and I'm going Saturday for sure, and I might stay for Sunday.
Sweet. All right, let's go to NFL picks.
Graduated, so it's time to go back to the Bird.
Let's go to NFL picks while we before we wrap this up.
Yeah, Ted started off. Uncle Ted started off by talking about the rigged NFL and the Texans.
The Chiefs, they don't call penalties on the Chiefs. I mean, that Taylor is in the backfield practically. He's never on the line of scrimmage. And when
he get a penalty every single time, he can get a penalty on every play. If he's not a false start or lined up in an illegal formation, he's holding.
He's holding. And he's one of the most oft-cited penalty guys in the league.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then they protect Mahomes with kid gloves. It's nauseating. Buffalo's got to win this game for just the good of the common good of America. I think what do I got? I got last week's picks running. We didn't load this week's picks.
These will be easy.
I like the Phils. I like Philly, but it's close. I think I said it all year. I wouldn't give Jaden Daniels points because that guy just keeps teams in games, and then he just wrecked Aaron Glenn's defense, the new New York Jets head coach. Wrecked them Saturday night. You got to give them a puncher's chance, but I think reality hits.
They beat him in week 16.
Yeah.
Late, another last score game. Their defense played great. I mean, they after what they did last week, I don't count them out of anything. They're playing 100% with house money right now, so that win or lose, they still had a phenomenal year. And I mean, he doesn't turn the ball over. They don't turn the ball over. So I do think the Eagles are going. I think it's going to be the Eagles and the Chiefs in a rematch, just because.
No.
Yeah, that's a great point, Ted. So he uses VR training at like 1.8 times the speed of games. Like so, and he told everybody in the pre-draft process that that's how he trains.
Yeah.
So VR training at almost 2 times game speed, so that when it's game speed, he's calm and he can make decisions instead of worrying about what he's seeing. That's pretty crazy.
The Raiders wanted him, and the Commanders were like, "Nope, we're not trading the pick. Sorry." And that's why I've loved Daniels last year at LSU.
Yeah,
I'd have picked him over Caleb Williams, and he's showing all that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to bring up something. I tweeted it the other day. People are banging on Mark Andrews. Yeah, he should have caught the ball. But since it happened, I'm going to bring it up. And Uncle Ted, I'd like to hear what you think about this. The bigger mistake of that game, and I can't stand it in the NFL, was John Harbaugh. You get it to 21-19, take your extra point. It's the third quarter. Instead, he goes for 2, and now he's down. Now he's chasing points. You don't know what's going to happen in the last 15 or a quarter and a half because the Bills get 2 field goals. They ain't get any more touchdowns at that point. If he takes his extra point there, it's 21-20. Give him the field goals 27-20. Now he needs a touchdown and extra point to tie instead of the TD and the 2-point conversion.
I'm pretty
NFL
sure what
coaches, hold on a second. NFL coaches listen to that goddamn stupid chart way too early in the games. You go for 2 when you have to. You go for 2 when you have to.
I think what I said about the game last week is that the only team that can beat the Ravens is the Ravens.
Yeah.
And 14 points for the Bills off turnovers is the difference in the game.
Yeah.
The Andrews fumble was hurt the Ravens worse than missing the catch on the 2-point conversion, because had he not fumbled at that time, they wouldn't have been in a position where they needed a 2-point conversion.
Sure. Yeah, they were driving for the lead.
I think the Bills-Chiefs game is going to be a fist fight, 17-13, good old-fashioned fist fight football game. And the Chiefs don't make mistakes. I mean, you can say all that. I mean, you can talk about the refs all you want, and it's like to the viewer, it definitely looks like that, but they don't make mistakes.
Yeah,
they don't beat themselves. They don't make mistakes. They played the thing in the Chiefs Texans game that I still can't wrap my head around is you're the Texans defense, and across the line of scrimmage from you is a still unproven wide receiver group, and the leading receiver by receptions and second by yards and touchdown in the history of the playoffs. And on 3 of his catches, there was nobody within 15 yards of him.
Yep.
No, nobody. Like on the long touchdown, on the long pass, there was nobody within 10 or 12 yards around him.
And they don't jam.
He got 177. What did Kelsey have? 124.
They don't jam him ever. Teams don't jam him at the line.
I think they get so enamored with the fact that their tackles are so bad that they think they can get to Mahomes before he can get a chance to get the ball that he can get the ball to Kelsey, and they forget that they're who they're talking about.
And Mahomes moves very, very well. That's his. You got to keep him in the pocket because he kills you with his legs, and then his dives for extra 15.
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, there were 2 egregious calls in that game. The first one, though, I can see how they would have called it, which was the blow to the head. The one where he slid and they called it, that was an awful call.
Yeah, one Houston player hit another.
When you got Troy Aikman going, oh, come on.
Yep.
Like a guy that got hit in the head more times than anybody complaining about it. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what they're going to do about that specific call. And coming into this game, of the 2 quarterbacks, which one do you think got the most roughing the passer calls against them this year? It's Allen by a lot.
Yeah. No, we're hoping Buffalo.
It should be a good weekend. Last weekend is always a better weekend of football. The Lions game really shocked me. I was very surprised by that.
Yeah, I was covering hockey that night. I tracked the game a little bit. I saw the Detroit had a 14-10 lead, and then we were doing post-game press conference, and one of the guys from the other paper, he goes, oh, it's 31-20 at halftime. Oh, Detroit. He goes, no, Washington. Whoa, what happened?
Yeah. Bears fans, I know you're excited about Ben Johnson, but you might be a little careful of what you wish for with some of these guys sometimes. He had one of the most innovative calls for a touchdown I've ever seen. It was a great call, right? So it was a pitch to Montgomery and a shovel pass to St. Brown coming across the line. Just a like unbelievably brilliant call. I never saw anything like I've never seen that before. I think Collinsworth did the same thing. But then you run a wide receiver pass. Like you run an end around pass with friggin' Jamison Williams throwing a football into triple coverage. Just like so. Hopefully Keenan Allen's getting his arm loosened up. He could be in the passing game.
Maybe. No, Uncle Ted. You know what? It's crazy with the Raiders. You hear Ben Johnson's the guy until he's not the guy, and it's funny. One of the Raider beat writers comes out the day after and says he's coming. It's like, well, I talked to somebody in the Detroit organization that said he's not the right guy for the Raiders because he's not like a leader. He's a great innovator. He may not be a great head coach. I'm like, well, where was that talk when you were telling me he was coming in? Right. It might be Liam Cohen now from Tampa because they just hired Tampa's assistant GM.
Yeah, that's gonna be I think that's gonna be a package deal.
It might be, but look, as crazy as it sounds, I wouldn't be upset with Pete Carroll because he knows structure and he knows how to win football games. And the Raiders need both.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's the same age as Tom Flores, so that would make perfect sense.
Absolutely.
I think Gruden back on the sideline would be.
No, that's not happening. Come on.
Bring him back.
I loved him. I loved Gruden 1.0, but 2.0 was, you know what? He was too full of himself. He enjoyed being the TV star all those years, and he draft was just a disaster.
Yeah, I'm going to start referring to that as he was the Bob Hurley.
Yeah.
Bob Hurley's become that.
Yeah.
Well, you had a shot at Josh McDaniels until he decided to go be Vrabel's OC.
I'm going to a game there next year, and I'm going to go right down there to the front row and I'm just going to yell at him for 3 hours. I've been kicked out of that stadium before. Not that one, the old one, the dome.
So you got it's like salt and pepper shakers. You can't just have one. Get kicked. I mean, kicked out of a high school stadium in Foxborough. You might as well get kicked out of the nice one.
I've been prematurely dismissed from that place twice. Once wasn't my fault; it was guilt by association. But we had to leave anyway. It was 30.
I wonder if we're going to see a Joe Douglas Robert Sala reunion in Jacksonville.
Yeah, right.
Possible. It's very possible.
All right, so we are back next week. Outfield, right?
Yeah. Yeah, outfield and DH only players. Outfield. I wonder who our top.
What's that?
I wonder who the top two outfielders are going to be.
James Wood and Lawrence Butler?
You never know.
Team Pugsley 2025, baby.
You never know. Leonis Wade.
Maybe. Uncle Ted, thank you for joining us and your contributions. You've become he's like Jack Nicholson, an easy rider for us. He's a great tag-along.
PCA is why I haven't decided if I'm saving Jazz Chisholm yet.
All right, man. We will see you next week.
Adios.
All right.